Discuss more about this and Joe Biden's role with President Obama in putting America in harm's way is war hero and my friend, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Colonel, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming on our inaugural week here on Newsmax at Prime Time.
Congratulations on a great news network and a great time slot, because you've got it, buddy. Well done. And you deserve it.
I appreciate it, Colonel. Thank you so much. Look, are they delusional or are they lying to us? Because it's either one or the other, and I think it's the latter.
Well, actually, I think it's probably a little bit of both. And here's why. When you look at the clips you just ran, John Kerry and Ms. Yates, former Deputy Attorney General, those folks are not only delusional, but they're deceiving those who paid attention, which thankfully is not very many people. Apparently, this is the lowest turnout on TV for a political convention in history since TV was invented. So I'm not as worried as I might have been if there was millions and millions of people watching it, but apparently there's not. And here's the good news. Those folks who you just accurately described as both delusional and hypocritical and deceptive aren't the kind of folks that we want around our government. John Kerry almost wrecked the single greatest friend we've ever had in the Middle East, the only democracy that's in the Middle East. I'm talking about Israel. He was tearing the country apart. And the plan was all to push, literally, let the Syrians back into the Golan Heights, divide up the country into tiny little places where at one point on this, I've been out there many, many times, as you know, Grant, and you can stand on the Golan Heights and look all the way north toward Damascus and see the outside of the city, and then look to your left as you're facing north, and you can see the Mediterranean Sea and Haifa. They would have divided the country up in such a way that an Arab adversary, of which there were many and still some, the idea of being able to literally cut the country in two with an armored assault against our best ally in the Middle East. That was John Kerry's idea of Israel. The so-called plan to take the Iranian nukes away from the Iranians by giving them billions of US dollars in cash. Remember that? Does anybody remember besides me the pictures of planes landing in Tehran with literally entire pallets full of cash, both euros and American dollars? That was John Kerry's idea of how to deal with the greatest threat that we've ever seen in that part of the world. It's beyond me.
Colonel, that's not dismantling an enemy. That's emboldening them. It's empowering them. And I want to be very clear. Iran has a long history of funding global terrorism. And somehow this idea that the terrorists have just packed up and gone home, it's laughable. The Chinese virus hasn't scared the terrorists away. They're still plotting against us.
Well, thankfully, there's fewer of them to do it. Al-Baghdadi somehow has managed, the dog chased him down inside a tunnel. And if you look at what Soleimani was doing, it's entirely possible, for example, that some of the large explosions that just occurred in Beirut turned out to be munitions that were brought in by Soleimani, and the guy who was in charge of it for Hezbollah somehow disappeared, and everybody forgot where the stuff was. It's entirely possible. Soleimani is not going to export terrorism anymore because thanks to Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief, there's fewer terrorists and people in charge of the terrorists.
Yeah, the exact opposite of what Barack Obama did, returning five Taliban fighters in exchange for a traitor in Bo Bergdahl. Those fighters go back to the battlefield. I want to run another soundbite, not to make your stomach churn during the evening hours here, but let's watch this. John Kerry again. Watch.
Our interests, our ideals, and our brave men and women in uniform can't afford 4 more years of Donald Trump. Our troops can't get out of harm's way by hiding in the White House bunker.
Our country needs a commander-in-chief who takes care of our troops in the same way he would his own family. For Joe Biden, that doesn't need teaching. It comes from the experience he shares with millions of military families, sending his beloved son off to war and praying to God he would come home safe.
Colonel North, what I've watched firsthand is you out there with our troops, and they love you. I've seen you with them. The morale of our military under Barack Obama was decimated. Explain to me how that was uplifted during President Trump and how wrong. And I'm sorry, I had great respect for Colin Powell, but lately he seems like he's gone off the deep end as well.
Well, look at Colin Powell and many others former service and other administrations who called themselves Republicans are really rhinos. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Donald Trump came in and has shaken up the Republican Party. Donald Trump is admired by the troops because he gave them what he promised. He gave them the idea, you're going to get a pay raise. We're not going to cut your medical support. We're going to look after your families. Those are the kinds of things that Donald Trump did. And on top of it says, I'm not going to have Americans sent off to useless wars in faraway places because we can't figure out what our strategy is. So the bottom line of it is, this president knows our number one threat is the country called China. Okay? And he's addressing those threats right now. And he's doing it using the U.S. military as in its best role as a deterrent to Chinese adventurism in that part of the world. The reality is what we've got now with what he just accomplished in both the United Arab Emirates and Israel is the formation of an opportunity for peace in the Middle East like we've not seen since Israel came to be in 1948.
The mainstream media, those on the left, including the likes of Colin Powell, John Kerry, and the rest of them that they'll trot out Hillary Clinton tonight, they can't stand the fact that the president is actually winning these battles. The American public will never get that story from the mainstream media. I'm glad we got Newsmax programs like this to tell you. But it's outrageous to me that they will turn a blind eye to the successes of this president.
Well, what they do is they'll run all of those sound bites that you just ran from last night. They'll put Ms. Yates up. Think about what she did. She refused to back an immigration ban from countries where they were not doing good immigration controls on who left the country and who arrived. And here, I've got the list: Syria, Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Yemen, and Somalia. Those were on the initial list. It's now grown well beyond that. But the idea was to protect the American people by not letting bad people come to this country. And they were not doing a very good job in any of those countries, and some they're still not doing a good job. And they don't deserve to have free immigration coming to this country without vetting those who get on airplanes and come here. I mean, has everybody forgotten what occurred back in 2001? Has everybody forgotten that bad people came to this country, lived among us? 19 of them got on 4 airplanes on 9/11/01 and killed almost 3,000 people in the space of 3 hours. I mean, it's just nuts that people can't remember those things. But the mainstream media is not going to remind you that it was a good Republican who fought back, and we've got a great Republican right now in the White House who's making sure that the United States of America is protected against our enemies, and China is enemy number one.
Yeah, look, everybody knows there's no way to vet people coming from most of those countries. It's not like you do a background check there. Those countries are in shambles. And the reality here is President Barack Obama had those same countries on his list when he put immigration restrictions in as well under his administration. But nobody wants to talk about that. Colonel North, I'll tell you what, it is great having you on the program, and it is always great to see you, sir. Thank you so much for coming on today.
I look forward to being on with you again, brother. Well done. Bravo Zulu, as we'd say in the Naval Service.
Well, Semper Fi, my man, and you are welcome here anytime. You know that.
Newsmax TV is now America's fastest growing cable news channel. We give you the real news you need. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Newsmax TV streams live on YouTube for free. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.